Now recording. All right, welcome to the Masterclass, guys. In the words of Gaur Gopal Das, you are your most important project. If you are in place, everything else you want to do will be in place. And I heard a theme in what a lot of you shared around what success looks like for you, which is perfect because you're in the right space. Why do I do what I do and why do I run this program? This is a bit about me. So as you know, I have a doctorate. Some of you may know, I have a doctorate in gynecology, and I was in clinical trials and research for about 10 years of my life. And a lot of that choice to become a doctor and get those two letters before my name was a decision young Ambika made even before she hit the age of 10. Growing up in Zambia, almost every one of my girlfriends that you asked what they wanted to become, the answer was doctor. And for guys, it was engineer or accountants. Why? Because our dads were all engineers or accountants in the mining industry, where they were all recruited right after they graduated from the university. We're all born and raised in Zambia. And then subsequent to that, lived across 4 continents. I was in New Zealand, where I started my biomedical education, and then Australia, where I did my doctorate, and then London, where I was for 10 years. And London really gave me access to transition and recognize that the world I was in was purely to become a somebody, purely for parental approval, purely to feel smart and look good. But no part of my being was at all designed to thrive in clinical trial world. I loved it. I became an expert in it. I published papers and I spoke at medical conferences. And according to societal definitions, there was success, but no part of Ambika's being and her authentic self was at home there. I then transitioned into impact investing in London, where my primary role was raising capital from investors, from corporates, from philanthropists, high net worth individuals, family foundations, to invest in social enterprises, the most innovative models in East Africa, West Africa, India, Pakistan, Latin America. And I loved it, but there's a part of me that still wasn't at home. Simultaneously, I did start coaching, to doing various other leadership programs and personal development work in London, and that has truly been where home is. But I give you the 5-second overview of my journey, and I want to take us back 10 years into where I still felt medicine or the medical world was my calling. And this is a photo taken in our first year of our marriage. My husband and I are really happy. This is 2013. We are in Edinburgh enjoying the Fringe Festival. For those of you that don't know what that is, the Fringe Festival is where you have artists, comedians from around the world gather in Edinburgh for a whole month, doing shows every single day, and it's a month of just laughter. My first birthday as a married couple, my husband chose to gift us the weekend away so we could have a nice couples romantic weekend away, enjoy my birthday in Edinburgh. And it was grand, but it was even grander because we were pregnant and we could not wait to share the awesome news with all our loved ones. And it just so happened that my 12-week scan was going to happen on my birthday that year. However, just before we got on the plane to get into Edinburgh on the Friday night, I started slightly bleeding. We went into A&E. We were there for most of the night, and I was told to just relax, take it easy. And we thought, hey, what would be more relaxing than being at a festival where it's full of laughter and we can just enjoy and be tourists? And so that's what we did. On the Saturday, we just enjoyed and laughed and had such a great, great time. As the sun was setting, I felt some real intense cramping happening in my abdomen. And so I said to Ronnie, let's cancel the evening shows we have and head back to the hotel room. And as soon as we got back to our hotel room, I started bleeding really heavily, and then what pursued was the passing of our fetus, and we had a miscarriage, and perhaps the most physically and emotionally traumatic experience of our life up until that point. Neither of us knew how to deal with it, and even though I'd spent a decade in gynecology and I had studied how to have pregnancies, be healthy pregnancies, it was at a whole different level. Nothing quite prepares you as a would-be mom, as a would-be parent for that emotional journey you're going through. And so as distraught as we were, we made our way back to London the next day, not knowing how to process those very, very alien emotions. But we were all raised in a world where you put your best foot forward, you dust your knees and move forward. And we heard an aunt of ours say, "Oh, don't worry, you'll be fine. You'll have more kids. It's okay." But it wasn't okay. There was a part of us that was so fractured and we didn't quite understand how to deal with it. Fortunately, while that happened, we were going through a 3-month leadership program in an organization where we were doing personal development courses. And we had classes, sessions once a week, happen in central London in Holborn. And that in a few days' time, we had our next class. And we were halfway through that 3-month leadership program. And we both had a coach. And of course, I shared my news with my coach, my heartache. And she said, "You got to come to class this Thursday." And my program leader really supported us and coached us through those first few days. And when we were in class that day, the session was typically from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Imagine a room full of 80 leaders from across London. Some would fly in from Europe weekly to make the sessions happen. It was an extraordinary leadership program. But in that room, you want to be the best version of yourself. Except I stood up on the mic and my coach encouraged me to share vulnerably what we had just been through. And I got up on the mic and I sobbed like a 5-year-old girl. And I had not cried as an adult in front of an audience in that way ever before. Of course, I cried a lot. I cried. My husband seen me cry, my mates, my family, but not in a room full of leaders when you want to put your best foot forward. And as I looked up and finished sharing the story of what we had just gone through, there wasn't a single dry cheek in the room. At the end of the night, a number of our friends had come up to us and said they had gone through miscarriages too. We didn't know that. What was more shocking for me and surprising was that in the course of that week, remember I said it was my birthday? Well, of course, I got calls from my mates in all the different parts I'd lived in. And for the first time, I had to say 2 things in a sentence that I'd never said before when people are calling to wish me happy birthday. It wasn't just a thank you or, "Oh, that's so kind of you." It was a, "Guess what? We were pregnant and we had a miscarriage." And it was heartbreaking sharing that. But what shocked me the most was we were the last to get married amongst our close friends networks. My mates in New Zealand, Zambia, and London. And a number of my girlfriends said, "Really, really sorry to hear that. And I know what you've gone through because I've been through the same." And that shocked me. How did I never know? How did they never share what to me is my biggest and most painful moment in my life to date? How did they never share that with me? I felt our bond and our closeness transcended geographical borders. No matter where I lived, having lived across 4 continents, I always kept in close touch with my girlfriends, always. So all of a sudden, that withhold of very personal information to me felt like a gaping hole in our bond, but not just with one, with a couple of my girlfriends. And the more I reflected on that and tried to process the anger and the shock, and there's a sense of distance, thanks to my coach, what I really got present to is it's not just my girlfriends who didn't share what they didn't share. The reality is I wouldn't have shared with anybody. I would not have stood in a room full of 80 leaders. I wouldn't have told nobody. Maybe my girlfriends, yes, but nobody else. Why? Because we're conditioned to put our best foot forward. And so because I had a coach, I had the courage to be vulnerable and share something so raw. Because I shared that, I gave other people permission to lean in and share their wounds and their journeys and their heartaches. But number 3, what I discovered from this whole ordeal was that I had a voice and I had the ability to make a difference to people the more courageously I showed up when life wasn't working, when we are going through a heartache. And so I spent the next several years as I embarked into coaching to really understand how on earth do we become these people who will portray our best front, all our titles, all our grand lifestyles, our homes, our cars, our partners, our degrees, our social status, everything, but yet deal with some of the most broken emotional fractures to ourselves, to others, emotional wounds that are so painful and so jarring that we become habituated to them and have created the most perfect compensatory mechanisms. How did we become that way as a human race? And over the years and over coaching and over doing work in spirituality, what I really discovered, and it really hit home 3 years later when we finally had our firstborn, I would witness this child, and it took us 3 years to finally conceive. And so when we finally had him, my attention and everything was on this soul who chose us as parents. And in London, I would see the busiest train, the grumpiest faces would get lit up the minute this baby would show up in his pram. And that would fascinate me. And I would see my own uncles and aunts, who generally were known for their certain temperaments, also get lit up with joy and happiness in the presence of this baby. Baby was under the age of 1, hadn't even developed verbal communication, and yet had the ability to command love wherever he went. And I started to wonder, hey, have we got one of those real avatar babies? Like some divine presence has come into our lives? Or were we all born that way and then become the adults that we are, with our judgments and our likes and our dislikes and our biases and our prejudices and all of that, multiple degrees of separation? And what I found was, fortunately for us all, it's the latter. We were all born that way. We commanded love. And before you hit the age of 7, the world starts happening to you. So your authentic self is an expression of love. Your authentic self is what you're born with. Your authentic self, the core essence of who you are, is love. What do I mean by that? The essence of the sun is warmth and light. You can't separate the two. The essence of fire is heat. You can't separate the two. The essence of sugar is sweetness. You can't separate the two. The essence of being human and our spiritual identity is love. But we don't experience love on a day-to-day basis because we departed from that authentic self through our education, through our upbringing, through what happens to us in our playgrounds and all the different human interactions we have before we hit the age of 7. And the departure leads to this alter identity, the ego being birthed. Now, to give you a bit of a quick biology 101, what is the ego? The ego is our mind. Our mind creates a pseudo-identity really as a compensatory mechanism to keep us alive. Why? Why do we need to keep ourselves alive? And what's the threat? The threat is, by the time you hit 3 years of age, you start experiencing moments of non-love. Your parents could shout at you. You could have a teacher. You could have other kids who mock you, pick on you, or just random conversations. You could have another sibling being born, and all of a sudden you feel like, heck, I'm not the loved one anymore. Or you could have physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse. You could be bullied. In class, you may not come first, and then you're between second and last, and either way you feel not enough. Multiple versions for that young mind that leave you feeling inherently, I'm not loved, I don't belong, and something's wrong here. And because you don't have the emotional faculties fully developed, you don't quite know how to process those non-love emotions. And so your biology is also not fully developed. And in order to cope and actually keep you alive, our body has this extraordinary inner intelligence. The mind kicks in and creates these compensatory mechanisms. So what do those compensatory mechanisms look like? They are alternate identities you create to survive a moment. So what does that look like? I'm 9 years old. We're at a family friend's house in Zambia. Social lives were just super busy. Every weekend there was a lunch or a dinner happening somewhere because expatriates, we were about 80 or 90 expatriate families here. And we would, pardon me, I'm going to walk as I do the segment to let our dog out. And as we're playing out in the garden, big, large homes, all the parents are indoor socializing. Kids are typically running outside playing tag or hide and seek. I felt a tap on my shoulder. I looked behind me, and there is, before I know it, I'm up against a wall, and there's 5 kids who form a semicircle around me. I know them. They're my family friends. However, they're slightly older. They're between 11 and 13 years of age. There's 3 guys and 2 girls, and the guy in the center comes front right into my face and says, "Hey, I know you're spreading rumors about me." And I know in my heart I haven't said anything about him, but I don't have the courage to open my mouth and say anything I hear them laughing, I hear them mocking me, and my heart is just pounding so hard, my knees feel like they're starting to shake. The last thing I recall is the guy on my right saying, "Look at her face, she's gonna start crying." They laugh more and walk away. And in that moment, 9-year-old Ambika feels like an absolute reject, like an outcast. And I start sobbing inconsolably, and the ego in that moment gets birthed, which is, I'm never gonna feel like a reject again. And so from that point onwards, I use what I think is my strength, which is my ability to be funny and humor, as my get out of jail card. And truly, right through my teens, and this is not something you're thinking, by the way, this happens at a very deep subconscious level. Throughout my teens, from that point onwards, whether I was in boarding school in India or New Zealand or in Zambia for high school, everywhere I went, my humor became my trump card. It became my ability to rock the rooms and be the spotlight of the parties. But the moment life didn't go as planned, no matter how old I was, whether I was 18 or 25, the moment things were unfamiliar and the same emotions of feeling like a reject or outcast, or the fear of that showing up, 9-year-old Ambika was in the room right away emotionally. That's what the ego is. So you can become the partner of the largest firm in the world. You can be the most successful business person. You can have a resume that is shining and is defined as success by every other metric. You could be really happy parents, happily married. You could be a billionaire. But if what's gotten you there is a compensatory mechanism because inherently you feel not enough, then that is the ego running the show. And you know it's the ego running the show because the moment things don't go as planned, a sense of agitation kicks in. Your familiar emotional patterns kick in, which are not pleasant, which are not happy. And so, what is this egoic state that we all live in? So the ego gets birthed in that moment as a compensatory mechanism. We don't realize it, and we just start living into that pseudo identity, and it becomes our world. And in that world, most of the human psychology and most human beings operate from this consciousness: constant competition, constant comparison. What will people think? Heck, for 30 years of my life, I was trapped in what will people think, living across 4 continents. The way I walked, the way I talked, my accent, my wardrobe, everything was molded and influenced by what I thought people would think, not consciously, subconsciously. Agitated state, the moment life doesn't go as planned. Always a sense of scarcity. The context of everybody winning is not there. It's either you or them, you or her, you or him. It's always a sense of scarcity in your life. What does that look like? Like I said earlier, my husband and I were the last to get married from our close network of friends. The penultimate couple who were dating in London went for a beautiful romantic weekend away to Paris, came to London, and that Sunday evening came straight to our apartment to tell us they got engaged. And I got teary-eyed. It was an instant survival reaction. I got teary-eyed, not because they were tears of joy, but because of this point scarcity, which is like, crap, even they're engaged. Now we're the last ones left. I'm truly a loser. Why the hell is this guy not proposing? That's how our minds think when we operate from a sense of scarcity. Of course, at some level, I was extremely happy and joyous for them. But you will learn on our program how we have these chronic mental toxins running the show: jealousy, anger, resentment, pride, attachment. How many of you feel things should or shouldn't be the way they are currently? That's attachment. It is a mental toxin. By mental toxins, what do I mean? It's not just a metaphor. As long as your primary psychological state and emotional reaction is run and dictated by the ego, your biology will always be in a state of fight or flight. It will create more stress hormones be generated in your body, which you get habituated to, than non-stress, than resting and happy hormones. And that's why when your body's in a constant state of fight or flight, it's compromising your entire biology, purely because of your perceptions of yourself and how the world sees you. And when that happens, then at a biological level, your health is already being compromised. But at a social level, your self-worth is completely externalized. You desperately seek validation from family. You seek validation from community. You seek validation in your purpose and career. You seek validation from the world. When things don't go as planned, guess where you point the finger? Them. That boss, that husband, that wife, that ex, that neighbor, that dog, that politician, that community, that aunt, that in-law. It's always external. And then guess what? The ego tries to do is try to change the world. It will never look within. It's not designed, it's not programmed to look within. It's programmed to keep you alive by having this perception of there's some perceived threat out there. I got to keep you alive. And that is how 99% of human beings operate in this day and age with the consciousness most of the human race is at, which is why you have the wars happening out there, because it's always me versus you. You'll have societal fractures, me versus you. Family fractures, me versus you. And this really is where we teach the healing on the Healthy Relationships program. It's an absolutely integral education that really must be introduced in primary schools so that people can, at that age, retain their connection and identification to their authentic self and not drift into some other compensatory existence. So when you complete this program, will there be no more storms? Not at all. Not at all. Of course there'll be storms. Of course there will be storms, because life is always happening, but you choose how it happens. What happens right now is every single thing that doesn't work in our favor, the human psychology coming from the egoic existence is it's happening to me. I got the short end of the stick. That's not fair. Why me? How dare they? And that's a real toxic existence. And it really stems from fundamentally your fractured relationship to yourself in those formative years. That narrative that you create, that I'm not loved, I'm not worthy, I don't belong, and something's wrong here, gets so subconsciously embedded in your life. You could be 80 years old and still write out that narrative. And we interrupt that on our program. It's 11 weeks, we interrupt that. In the first few weeks, and I'll tell you how in a few slides, but then we take you into really rewiring your brain where you start to understand life's not happening to me, it's happening for me. In 2020, we came here, the peak of that first COVID wave, to just get away from London. We just had our second born, smack in the first wave of COVID. Couldn't go out. My mom couldn't come from New Zealand. And it was intense. It was really intense. Couldn't meet nobody. We had a 3-year-old and a newborn. And we had one outing that was permitted to a park. And after 6 months, I just felt mentally, physically, emotionally exhausted. I needed more support. And so I couldn't go to New Zealand where my parents were. Borders were completely shut. And so my husband's like, go to Zambia. Let's go meet his parents. And all the flights to the African continent were open. So we did. We came here with one suitcase. It was bliss to just be with family and get more human interactions, even just a hug. And then we never got to go back. The flights got suspended, borders got shut for 11 months. And it really, I think in the first 6 months, I got to experience some of my darkest emotional spaces, even though I've been coaching for years at that point. But the moment life will take you away from what you think was your game plan, that's when you start applying these tools in getting this is happening for me. And what we mean by that is you fundamentally start creating a belief system that the universe is always working in your favor. Always. 0 exceptions. There's always spiritual growth opportunity in every single moment. And for us to be here and then finally surrender and give up the resistance of being here and the yearning to constantly go back, we finally chose to give notice for our apartment because we were still paying rent in our London apartment for 11 months. And our friends had said, hey, look, God knows what's happening with the borders. We're going to go to your place. We can pack your stuff up, put it in storage. When you come back, you guys can get a new place. And we're like, oh, okay. Finally surrendered. Gave in our notice in October 2021. And literally 2-3 days later, Boris Johnson, the then Prime Minister of the UK, said, we're opening all our borders to all the countries. And it was amazing because we kind of laughed and neither of us were like, yoo-hoo. We're like, actually, let's write it out till Jan. And we just got comfortable, and it was awesome being close to family and having all the domestic help and having our little ones grow up in Zambia just the way we did. And 4 years on, we never left. We've still been here. And life has expanded in numerous ways. And what felt like the toughest experience, where I never got to go back to our apartment or use my key again, only opened a whole different universe. And you fundamentally get to shift your perspective of your past on our program. Because trauma is not that which happens to you guys. Trauma is that which happens within you, and you keep reliving those memories on automatic replay, and you don't even know you're doing that. Your day-to-day may occur as a new day, but it's not. It's just your egoic mind on automatic replay memory. Your choices, your likes, your dislikes, what you avoid, who you talk to, who you don't talk to, your anger, all of that is just habitual automatic replay. And from there, the third level of consciousness we take you through, which is where our coaches get trained on, is life is happening through me. And ultimately, the fourth and highest consciousness in our more advanced leadership programs is life is happening as me. The transition is you basically go from the self-identification, me, myself, my life. Part of healing is getting, there isn't an I in this existence. It's a collective existence. And you start finding a tribe, you start being in an environment where you thrive by living your purpose, and your purpose is always associated with making an impact out there. And that whole process is healing. And you go through this entire phase on our 10-week program. And that really has been my journey for the last decade. It is having people get that all of us, no matter how successful you may occur or how broken you may occur to yourself, we all have shackles from our past that limit us, that really keep us stuck in a vortex of childhood narratives, whether we know it or not. Deep subconscious level, they are there. How do you get to weed them out? How do you get to transform them? Because I've done it, I know it, and we've coached hundreds of lives, is my commitment to every other person, that not a single soul gets to their deathbed having not transformed their relationship to the past. Because once you transform that relationship to the past, you have a blank canvas and the freedom to return to your authentic self and experience life in its most grandest way. So Akshay, when you talk about Hetna and Mohini's life being significantly different, or Kavit, when you say you've seen Deepika go through all that she has, it's that returning to authentic self and just bidding the ego farewell is the most liberating experience. I couldn't for the life of me ever imagine sitting at a restaurant by myself or going to the movie by myself ever. And in Perth, my best mates could do that. And I was just like, oh my God, you loser, who would do that? But really, my inner subconscious fear was, I never want to be seen solo, because what will people think? What a loser, she has no mates. And how much of our everyday choices gets capped because of just what people will think. The freedom to be able to be in my own company now, to be able to sit in a restaurant solo, in a cafe solo, or speak to a stranger in a lift as if they were my best mate, is just so liberating to be able to step into that world. And that has been the journey through different talks across different platforms, different boardrooms, different corporate spaces, then online, podcasts, interviews, radio shows. It really has been what's birthed the Healthy Relationships program 4 years ago. FITBANKER was almost a decade old, and this program really got birthed on demand from participants. We run one module on how your relationships impact your biology, and that module had people just request a standalone program. And so how do you actually get to heal whatever it is that's a pain point from you is now an exercise we're going to do for you guys. And so this is where you guys pull out your pen and paper. And I know each of you shared at the start what success looks like for you, but I'd love for you to be more specific in this exercise. I'd like for you now to give yourself permission to write down on your pen and on your piece of paper in your notebook, what's an area of your relationships that isn't working as well as you'd like it to. And this could be a romantic relationship, it could be with siblings, it could be with parents, it could be with friends, it could be with money or your perception of self. Any aspect. There's multiple dynamics of relationships. But for the intention of this exercising working well, I'd love for you guys to pick one area. You may have multiple, but pick one area of your relationships that isn't working as well as you'd like it to, and write that down. And the more specific you can be in what exactly isn't working, that would be great, because you'll allow yourself to experience the emotion associated with it. And what I mean by that is, I can't stand my neighbor is a good start, but I can't stand my neighbor because they keep spitting over my fence adds more context. And I feel used because I got to keep cleaning after them, and that lazy slob can't do it themselves. Something that adds more detail to the pain point that you have. I'll give you guys a minute to write that down. All right. Now we'll embark on a visualization exercise. It'll be 2 minutes long. And for that, I would like for you've picked an area, park it aside for now, put your pens down, and just sit in a comfortable position. For this exercise, I'm going to request you sit in a comfortable position. If you're walking, if you're driving, please be responsible around that. Chital, you're home. Awesome. I can see you now. And once you're sat comfortably, please gently close your eyes. Feet can be flat on the ground or crossed, whatever you're comfortable with. Try and have your back, neck, and head in a straight line. Roll your shoulders back and just relax. Your palms on your lap facing outwards, please. And just connect with your breathing. No forceful breathing, no deep breathing required. Just get connected to your breath at its pace it is right now. And start bringing awareness to your thoughts. When we focus on our breathing, it actually silences our mind. And our breath shifts from our chest down to our abdomen. Our breath is our truest companion. It's with us from the moment we enter this physical body and come into this world. And it's with us right through to the end as the soul leaves the body and our body expires. And now I'd like you to visualize yourself 5 years from now. Visualize yourself in your most favorite location in the world. With your eyes still closed, visualize where you're at. The temperature, the energy, the breeze, the weather, the smell of the space you're in is exactly the way you love it. You're transported to your most favorite location in the world. It could be a beach, it could be a living room, it could be your parents' bedroom, it could be your childhood space, it could be a park, it could be anywhere you want it to be. And just as you visualize yourself there, experience and visualize your whole body relaxing. You're starting to feel a sense of joy as you're in your most favorite place. And it's not just because of the location that your energy is shifting, but I'd like you to visualize Every single part of your body feels different. It feels lighter. Your head feels so much lighter. Your neck feels so much lighter. Shoulders feel like the weight of the world is completely gone. There's flow and freedom and movement, and your arms feel so revitalized. Visualize your chest feeling completely open, your lungs full as if you've just laughed and laughed and laughed, a sense of lightness and energy, your abdomen feeling healthy. There's full flow of vitality and love and energy and gratitude through every cell of your body. Your legs feeling energetic, your hips feeling loose, no stiffness in any part of your body, no blockages, no pain. You're feeling absolutely alive and vitalized. Revitalized with a sense of abundance in every part of your being. And you're radiating gratitude. And for a moment, you just pause and reflect on whatever it was 5 years ago that you had put on your pen and paper in this masterclass around an area of your life that was not working the way you wanted to. It's all gone. It's all disappeared. It's all transformed. And all the tension and resistance and discomfort and agitation and upset and heartache that you experienced 5 years ago has all gone. It's all released into the universe. It's all healed. It's all transformed. And in its place, what you experience right now is a total sense of lightness and joy and elation, deep bliss, deep groundedness, and deep gratitude. And as you thank yourself for doing the inner work to release all those bondages, all those spaces of suffering, and as you feel light in this moment, visualize a group of people up ahead coming towards you. And as you get closer and closer, you visualize their faces, and you notice they're your most favorite people in the world, all together in one location. And they all have the same smile that you're experiencing. They walk towards you with the same skip in their step. You could see, almost it's palpable, feel the joy in their heart and the energy emanating out. And as you get closer, they all form a circle with you. You're all facing inwards, and you can see their joy in seeing you. And you begin by expressing your gratitude to them for being there, and each one goes around sharing their gratitude, and every single one is grateful for you. Every single one of them is expressing gratitude to you, for you doing the inner work and you transforming all that you needed to within yourself for your world to shine so bright. And as you experience that, you visualize a white, bright golden light emanating from your heart outwards, brightly encompassing your whole tribe. All your favorite people are encompassed in the sphere of white golden light that represents love, abundance, joy, harmony, and oneness. And just bask in that awareness and bask in that energy for a few moments. And say out loud to yourself, thank you, universe, for this abundance. Thank you for this peace. I am loved. I am enough. And now we will return to this room. And so with your eyes still closed, gently wiggle your toes. Gently bring your palms together and rub them together with your eyes still closed until you feel the warmth being generated between your palms, and then gently place your palms on your eyes and slowly open your eyes with your palms cupping them. And then bring your palms down your cheeks and down your heart center. Thank you very much. Welcome back, everybody. How was that for you? I'd love to hear one or two of you share.
It was beautiful also. Just very peaceful and very, happy.
Thank you, Kavit. Thank you so much for sharing. Would anybody else like to share? How was that experience for you?
It was liberating.
Thank you, Chatali. Thank you for sharing that. I'd like you all to hold on to that feeling, because as soon as you return to this world, your mind goes into, but I'm not there yet. And that's the journey you're on. So I'd like to share two narratives. They're short 1-minute clips of people who sat in these master classes where you have today, a couple of years ago, a couple of months ago, and what's possible for them when they believe that what you just saw, what you just visualized, is a reality, is a future they can create. This is Dhriti Shah from Kenya.
So I did my healthy relationship program this year, January, and that's the time I was doing my FITBANKER 90-day challenge for the second time as well. And there's a lot of stuff I got to unearth, things that I didn't even know had an effect on me. I realized my direct and immediate reaction to anything is anger. And I got to learn a lot of tools, on about anger, about a lot of other stuff, and how to just be a happy, joyous person, and the kind of mom, wife, daughter that my family needs. My family moved from India to Kenya when I was in Form 1, year 8. So being a teenager, left my friends there, made new ones here, but until I didn't know that this had a huge impact on me and my life. And like this one, there were so many other things I didn't know affected me as a person. But I got to clear all those emotions. As I said, learned a lot of tools for my future. And now I can be fun, joyful, and a happy person, to be around for my kids especially, and my husband. My communication has become amazing with my husband and other family members, but primarily husband because we're together 24/7. So yeah, life is amazing, and I think everybody should do healthy relationship program, because you don't know what is affecting you, or you don't know what is triggering all the responses that you are immediately going into. So yeah, that's me.
I have to say that the Healthy Relationships program is probably the most valuable and important gift I've given myself this year. I didn't realize it at the time, but coming into the program, I knew I was in a very low place, but in retrospect, I can see that I was in the depths of despair, actually. I'd lost my joie de vivre, my will to live, really. I just didn't see the point of my being here on this earth. And through the program, I was just so supported and loved and encouraged. It was so multidimensional. I'm still feeling the benefit of having taken part in the program. I have a newfound joy in life. love for myself and self-compassion, and, just a real passion. Yeah, I've got my mojo back. Thanks.
Thank you, Lois. Thank you, Dhruti. And so, guys, how do you benefit? How do they get to go through what they just got through? Is number one, you get to bring awareness to emotional patterns during struggles and alter the mindset. Like I shared during my miscarriage, I wasn't going to alter any mindset. I was going to go into survival mode, dust my knees, and go back to work the next day. If I didn't have a coach that really interrupted it and had me get present to this volcano of emotions within me that we're never taught to even get connected to or process, we get to de-escalate anxiety and agitation, which, by the way, is on a rise across the world. No matter which continent you are, no matter what your ethnicity is, no matter what your gender is, anxiety and agitation are on a rise across human beings in households, in individual levels, because of this inability to process our emotions. You get to use tools to proactively create new thought patterns, so a lot of brain rewiring that enable and empower you to overcome typical situations that upset typically and prevent you from moving forward. You got to transform your most important relationship, which is your relationship to self. That creates a ripple effect across all your other relationships. You get a harness peace of mind, gain freedom, and authentic self-expression. And ultimately, what we're all pursuing in every single action of ours is elevate your experience of everyday joy, abundance, and gratitude. Who is not up for that? Nobody in this room, which is why you guys are all here. How the program works, very simple, 3 stages across 11 weeks. You first unpack your identity. How did you become the way you are? It's not because you've made certain choices from the day you were born. Consider you had a huge identity percentage already inherited biologically through your ancestors, but also emotionally through your ancestors. So much of who you are is an imprint of your ancestors, energetically, emotionally, and we don't even know that. And so in the first 3 weeks, we get to do life map exercises, which are so structured for you to discover parts of you that you didn't even know existed. You then get to heal and reconstruct your past, and then get to discover your purpose, your raison d'etre, your ikigai in this lifetime by connecting with your authentic self and create a whole new reality. So you guys got to do an exercise where you listed something that is a pain point of you for you, an area of your relationships that isn't working as well as you'd like it to, and you visualize a future where everything is healed and transformed. The gap between the two is a bridge I'd like to build through this exercise. So whatever you choose going forward, I'm committed that you guys join us on the Healthy Relationships program. We only do 3 in a year. And even if you currently just walk away from this masterclass, my commitment is you walk away with some tools. So life is happening for you. The second level of consciousness, how do you start adapting that way of being? Here are 3 quick emotional biohacks for you. The first is gratitude attitude. It may sound so simple, but I cannot tell you the power of gratitude. And gratitude is not just thanking God for when life is working really well. When things are not going as planned, try pulling out your journal. And if you don't have a journal, go buy one today and list 5 things you're grateful for then in life. You may feel bankrupt and you may feel empty, but the moment you do that, you're shifting your nervous system from its familiar fight and flight state, which is the sympathetic nervous system, to your parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and recovery nervous system being activated. And immediately, the latter will start releasing happy hormones in your body. Your brain cannot be resentful or fearful and grateful at the same time. The moment you shift to grateful thoughts or gratitude as an attitude, as a way of being, you honestly will start experiencing a sense of joy. So I'd like you right now to list on your sheet of paper 5 things you're grateful for about life, anything about life, right? It may be around the situation, maybe around the person you're speaking about, or the incident, or whatever the situation, or it could be about anything else. But I'd like you to list on 5 things you're grateful for in this moment. And if you're feeling completely bankrupt, it's okay to say the pen I'm holding, or the Wi-Fi that's connecting me to this masterclass, or the roof over my head, whatever. Start tapping into the abundance that already exists within you. Gratitude is the mother of all values. It completely raises your vibrational energy. A whole different frequency shows up. It shifts your consciousness. And every single day, as I drop my kids to school in the car in the morning, we say 3 things we're grateful for. And it's such an awesome exercise. And my kids are now 4 and 7 years old. And we sit down for lunch. If we're not super hungry and start gobbling before we can even do grace, we will pause to do grace first, to really just bring gratitude to every single thing we're experiencing. All right. Is there anybody who hasn't or cannot think of 5 things you're grateful for? All right. Great. And I promise you won't get in trouble for saying yes. All right, number 2, generate compassion. This is a whole module. So by the way, we have a whole module on gratitude and different exercises and different breathing techniques that we do for emotional regulation. But we also have a whole gratitude. 2 of the 5 healers we cover are gratitude and compassion. And compassion is something that we're not taught at all. It's a word we may understand, but what does compassion look like in practice? You want to consider a big part of your ability to not forgive others and not like others stems from deep subconscious self-loathe. Our negative perceptions of ourselves are mirrored onto the people we attract and manifest into our life. And so the way healing begins is by bringing compassion to yourself. When I started coaching, I didn't realize there was a particular group of people I could not stand. I used to land them like a ton of bricks. And they were the real helpless people that just needed the handheld for everything. And I was like, oh my God, for God's sake, stop being such a weakling, stop being such a loser. And I was just the most non-compassionate coach towards them. And Ronnie would say, my husband would say, like, that was a bit intense, you could have been a bit gentle with them. And the more I did the inner work, the more I got that why I cannot tolerate those people is because they reminded me of the teenage version of Ambika, who I didn't realize I had so much judgment against, but I thought she was clueless. I thought she wasn't one of the cool kids in high school. And I didn't realize how much I had made that version of myself wrong until I did the inner work. And so the universe would send me these personality types that literally were mirroring the Ambika that I thought and I had labeled as a complete reject. Right? So consider you will always be meeting versions of yourself out there. And the more you can stand in, I had the consciousness I had at that age, that stage, that moment, and I bring compassion to myself, the more freedom you have to process all of that. And the same applies to others. We were coaching on a 7-month leadership program in London. They used to happen in person in the city, and we'd have 120 people that were on this leadership program. We had 4 weekends that they would happen across the 7 months, and full weekends, full Saturday, full Sunday. And as coaches, we needed to be there at 7 a.m. The class would start at 8 a.m. and it would go on right till 10 p.m. And that morning we woke up for one of the weekends, and we'd all switched on our news, and we heard there was a shooting happened in Peshawar in Pakistan, where these gunmen went into a primary school and just shot all the kids dead. And we all went into our coaches training that morning, and the program leader said, there's probably a lot of emotions here. Would anybody like to say something? And a lot of people shed tears. And as leaders and as coaches, we've got to clear ourselves because we have 120 people walking through the door in the next hour. So we've got to be able to release whatever we're dealing with. And everybody had similar stuff to say, how horrible those terrorists were and how much pain we were in for these kids and these parents. And then the oldest coach and the most seasoned coach stood up in the room, and he was sobbing. And he said, I have so much compassion in this moment for the terrorists, because God knows what their childhood must have been like, that they grew up to be taught to hold the weapons that they did and take the actions that they did in that moment that occurred as the most viable choice for them. And I'd never heard compassion in that context. But the more you give yourself permission to get that if you lived every single day of the other person's life that you currently have judgment over or have negative emotions towards, from the moment they were born to this point, you probably would be the same person as them. We don't know what egos and narratives people are dealing with. We don't know their childhood traumas. Heck, we don't know our own. And so the more we can liberate ourselves from the judgment prison we've trapped them and trapped ourselves in through the simple act of compassion, the more freedom we have to allow ourselves to move forward. The compassion is really, really important tool. And the third piece that I want to leave you with tonight is connecting with your breath. Now, what you guys did earlier was a visualization guided exercise, but I'm going to give you a simple technique right now that when you feel your chest tightening, when you feel anger, upset, whatever it is, consider a lot of it is blocked energy over here. And you can do this very simple breathing technique to release it and regulate your breathing and shift from that fight or flight, short chest breathing to just fully relax and shift your emotional state. Okay, so how do we do it? You basically raise your elbows to your shoulder level, facing this way, right? So elbows right in front of your face. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Radha, feel free to take this exercise on so you learn it as well. And so if everybody could just raise your hands, so back upright, you're just basically raising your arms. Deep breathe in and then fully exhale slowly and take your arms all the way back. So visualize your whole chest opening. Try and get your elbows as far back as possible and fully exhale from your mouth. So deep inhale, slowly through the nose and fully exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose. Hold and exhale all the way back through to your mouth, from your mouth. We'll do this a few more times. Deep inhale, all the way to your belly. And as you exhale, I'd like you to set the intention that you're releasing all the tension, all the worries, everything that doesn't serve you anymore. And final one, deep inhale. Elbows up. Shoulder length, shoulder height, and full exhale. And gently bring your hands down. You can do this at any time in the day. You can do them for 10 minutes in the morning, or just 10 rounds of them, 5 minutes in the evening, or just 5 counts of them, or any time in the day. The moment you regulate your breath, you regulate your emotional state. You can shift from anger to peace in as many breaths as you do it. It's the most powerful energy regulator. And we have a whole series of breath work that we do in our in-person retreat in Sicily that we have in July. And finally, I want to wrap up. If you want this and a lot more of these tools and techniques, join me on the next Healthy Relationships program. We only do 3 in a year. I cap it at 15 lives. It is an intimate space. And so we have, actually it's not 13 anymore. We have only 10 spots remaining. So it's 11 live webinars with me. They're all recorded. They happen on Thursdays every week, 13th Feb onwards, 11 consecutive weeks from 5:30 to 7 p.m. UK time. We have a global cohort because they're recorded. If you can't make it, you can watch the recording within 24 hours. You then have a designated coach who you have smaller group calls with, and then just access to a global tribe of people who have these kind of authentic conversations and are committed to healing and becoming the best version of themselves. The program is $1,499, $1,499 for 11 weeks. As my gift to you, we have a promo offer that's valid only till midnight in your respective time zones today, which is of $649. So less than close to 50%. Only 10 spots remaining. Will be first come, first serve. How you get access to the £649 that you paid today by midnight in your respective time zone is by clicking on fitbanker.com/HR, and the promo you use is MC promo, Masterclass promo, MC promo. And so if you're in, get yourselves on right away. And I cannot wait to serve you and grow with you and have you just shed all that doesn't serve your past, that doesn't serve you anymore, release the egoic identity and rise in your authentic self. I'm going to pause there. Any questions or anything else around the program before I wrap up on the final slide, which is a quote? Any questions, anybody?
Hey, Ambi, sorry, what time did you say the program, what time does the webinars happen?
5:30 to 7 p.m. UK time every Thursday starting 13 Feb. So 11 consecutive weeks.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's upper 12:30. Yeah, 12:30 in the United States.
Got it. Yeah, for your lunchtime on that end. Yeah. All right, team, if there are no other questions, I want to just thank you all with this quote by Eckhart Tolle, which is always say yes to the present moment. What could be more futile, more insane than to create inner resistance to what already is? What could be more insane than to oppose life itself, which is now and always now? Surrender to what is, say yes to life, and see how life suddenly starts working for you rather than against you. On that note, thank you all for being here. It's been such an honor and privilege to be in the session with you. Big tight hugs to you all, and I look forward to serving those of you and coaching those of you that do join us on the FEB Healthy Relationships program. Big hugs, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
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 Thank you. Bye.